What's up, guys? Average Kiwi guy here. How y'all doing? So I just got back from Pacific Rim Uprising or Pacific Rim 2. Hmm. I will say that I liked it. I liked it. I had fun with it, and that's the big thing, like with Pacific Rim movies, right? Is that you got to come out like you had a good time, because it's not going to be one of those movies that blows your mind, that changes your life, that's this masterpiece like sort of thing. It's not going to be that. These movies know what they are. Like, this is a mech kaiju movie. And, the first one knew it. It had some silly moments, it had some very hype moments and things like that. This one, same thing. I will say not quite to the same level, but it knew where it came from. And that's something that I was kind of a little worried about going in. But we'll get into that in a sec. But just a quick heads up. Want to tell you guys like how this review is going to go. First part will all be spoiler free. So for those of you who are a bit worried about checking out reviews, and you haven't seen it, don't worry. I'm not going to spoil anything. Only stuff we've seen in trailers. Stuff we knew before. That's it. So nothing big. Because there is some stuff here that if I told you, it would ruin the movie, and I don't want to do that to you guys, especially if you really want to see it. But then at the end of the review, we'll have a quick spoiler section, wrap some stuff up, really get into the nitty gritty parts. For those of you who have seen the movie, and maybe for those who just don't really care, that section's for you. Okay. Okay. So spoiler free for the first parts. Don't worry about spoilers. Okay. Right. So how was it? How was it? I think a big part about it was that I felt like everything was a step back from the first one. Everything was a step back. The story was a step back. The Jaegers themselves felt like a step back. Even the kaiju a little bit of a step back. I'm a big fan of the first one. When I came out from watching it, I was super interested in like the world that they had created. I was looking for like, man, I really want like prequel stuff. I want to know like when all the Jaegers were around, all these shadow domes all over the world filled with Jaegers and everyone engaging them, and when it was in the hype of the first one, like when in the first part of Pacific Rim when they're telling you like how Jaegers were winning all the time and they were like betting on them and it was like a big thing, entertainment stuff. Like I wanted to know about that stuff and like in the early days and all that. It seemed really really cool, and when they came out from that and they're like, okay, we're gonna make a sequel, but then it was in the up in the air a little bit because of production companies and stuff like that moving around. Del Toro was a little up in the air about some stuff because he was making other movies and timing and all that. But we got one. We got a sequel. We got Uprising, and it is a sequel. It's not a prequel like we thinking it was going to be. And it's about Stacker Pentecost's son, Jake. And I will say, John Boyega did a good job. I think he's definitely the best character out of all of them. Definitely the best character. I think he was better than Raleigh because Jake is the main character of this one. Raleigh was the main character of the last one. I think Jake was better than Raleigh. He's far more interesting, far more charismatic. John did a really good job, and I liked him a lot. Obviously I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I know John Boyega from that. And I really liked him. I believe that he was Stacker Pentecost's son, and the things that he gets up to, for the reasons why and all that. Like I get the reasons. Massive shadow of being his son. The savior of the world and all that. Like we'll get into it a little bit when we go into characters and stuff. But yeah, it was. I believe that. But apart from him, just not much after that, other than the old crew. Like we had some of the old crew there from the original. I just didn't get that same, hype, that same like for God's sake, in the first one, everyone fell in love with the Cherno Alpha pilots. The two Russian alpha pilot, Cherno alpha pilots. Like everyone was like, "What's their backstory? They're amazing." Like this married couple that kept the sort of this. I think it was like the Siberian Wall or something safe for so many years or something. Like they're in this Mach 1 or something. Big tough Cherno. Like that was like their favorite. Like so many people gravitated towards them. And everyone kind of had their favorite. This one, I don't see that. I don't see that. And I think it's because they definitely targeted a younger audience. They targeted a younger audience. With these cadets. The story centers around, obviously, Jake Pentecost. His co-pilot, Nate Lambert, played by Scott Eastwood. Clint Eastwood's son. And then it was those two were training all these cadets, and then the cadets get thrusted into the front lines as you'd predict. That's where it all sort of comes from, and they make they're kind of like a side thing, but they're definitely like they want younger audience members to like. Can you picture yourself as them? Can you picture yourself in with these cadets, in with these Jaegers? Get them all hyped up about that. Get them into the franchise. And obviously, hey, here's all this merchandise sort of thing. It's the first one, they had a more like, because of the more adult characters. They were trained. It was more that. And I will say, like, even story-wise, the first one had this desperation about it, right? It was in a war. There was a war of attrition. They're getting near the end of the war. They're running out of Jaegers. They're running out of pilots. They're running out of time because the world's turning on them. Not to mention that the breach is pumping out all these kaiju and they continually get bigger, bigger, and bigger. This one didn't have that. It felt like, at the start, everything's cool. There's shadow domes all over the world. Jaegers filling them. Kaiju haven't been seen. They're like 10 years afterwards. They're getting, everything's sort of coming about. All this, Jaeger tech's going in. And like they're even thinking about like replacing the Jaegers with like drones and stuff. But then this like incident happens. And that's what it felt like. It wasn't a war. It wasn't like we're like fighting this war to survive. It was, we have to solve this incident. This big incident that could destroy the world type thing. Like that's what it was. And they do this sort of, I guess, a little bit of rewriting just to sort of say, like, give the reasons why the kaiju are coming out, what they're doing, and, the reason what they're there for and all that. And like they did a lot of that stuff to make it seem like these, the other alien ones from the first one, they create these kaiju and send them off. The first one kind of made it sound like, they made them so they would kill off all the, like, really wipe out humans and, wipe out their cities and stuff like that. Like, that was the whole reason. This one, they kind of rewrite it a little bit and make it like it's a big apocalyptic thing for the world. It was a little more predictable. In places. Bad guy-wise, not, but definitely like overall story wise, like you saw a lot of things coming. And the first one wasn't like complete like, oh my god, I never saw that, but it was better than this. In a way. I think the story in the first one's far better. But I mean, like, the big thing out of these movies is Jaegers, kaiju. What are they like? Do they match up? And that was a big concern for me. Like, when I was watching these trailers and I did reactions on them on the channel, so if you want to check them out, I said, like, I was concerned about how the Jaegers looked and how they moved. Now, they were very, they were faster. They didn't seem like they had that weight to them. Like, they were jumping all around, and it didn't seem like it felt a little more transformery. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I do think that that was alleviated when watching the movie. I didn't feel like it was transformery too much. They definitely were lighter on their feet, but I guess you could attribute to that to like 10 years of development making Jaegers better. Like this is Mark 5s and 6 yeah, Mark 5s and 6s now. So that definitely gone up in technology made by, probably more durable lighter parts so that they're, but they did have like armor plates moving and things like that. That was my big thing, was like I want to see the mechs, that the Jaegers move, and like the way they move, like the body works properly and stuff. It had that. It had that. Kaiju, I didn't like them as much as the first one. Because really, when the kaiju show up, it's basically one big event. It's one big event, in a way. They do some interesting things with Jaegers and kaiju sort of meshed together. Like they said in the trailer, like there's someone on our side, on Earth's side, is letting the kaiju through type thing. Like that's their plan. That's pretty much what happens. And it was, yeah, I didn't like it as much. Because when a kaiju came out in the first one, it was like, boom, big event. Where is it? Let's go. Like, we gotta engage. Like, where's the nearest Jaeger? Let's go. Like, that sort of thing. This one, because it was just an incident, it didn't have that, like, it wasn't as good. Wasn't as good. Just sad. Just a little bit sad. The fights themselves, I don't think the fights had the impact of the last one. I think they had some cool moments. I liked how we finally got multiple Jaegers fighting together against, kaiju. Like that was something that we didn't get last time. Because the last time, they had one scene, and it's pretty much Cherno and Crimson getting wiped, pretty much torn to pieces, without doing too much. And then Stryker just getting basically taken out. Like they get EMP'd, and that's it. They're out of the game. And, basically Gypsy's the one that stops it all. But yeah, it was cool to see them fighting together. But it was a lot of, special effects stuff. It was a lot of like, electro whips. It was, tractor beam cannons. It was all that stuff where I like just fists up, pound away type thing. Like that's what I loved about the first one. Like, when you have freaking rocket punch from Gypsy Danger, like that was one of the hypest moments. I didn't get those hype moments in this one. I didn't get those hype moments. Like, it was cool, and I liked what I was seeing, but I didn't get those hype moments. When the Pacific Rim theme comes on, it's like, and it's like, just boom, 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 like going at it. Like, I just didn't get that. Like, we got actual Jaeger on Jaeger fights, which was cool. I liked that. There's a scene there, like the Arctic scene with Gypsy Avenger, and the one they call Obsidian, was it Obsidian Fury, which I love. I love the names. The names are fantastic. That was cool. I liked that fight, but just the kaiju fight, mainly because of things they did with the kaiju. They gave them certain powers, like these certain abilities that was just like, it made them very OP. And it meant that they couldn't engage them in, normal terms, in normal ways, which was a little disappointing, I think. A little disappointing. And honestly, they didn't give a shit about collateral damage. They were like, there are moments where you're like, God, I hope people aren't there. Like, thousands of people are dying right now if there are people around this area type thing. There's definitely those moments. So yeah. Individual Jaegers and stuff. Obviously you had Gypsy Avenger. Basically a more streamlined version of Gypsy Danger. I personally prefer Gypsy Danger. Um, Honestly, I think slightly weaker. Uh, all I could see was one cannon, one sword. Didn't see anything come out of the vents. That was like, oh, and then the tractor beam cannon. I guess that took the place of one of the plasma cannons. I was like, this for all the upgrades, like it's more mobile. That's definitely it's faster. It's a more faster unit than what Danger was. But like for all these upgrades, it does not seem better. You know? Yeah, and then also in the trailer we saw the other ones that are in that big fight in the city. Guardian Bravo, that's the one with the whip. Looks kind of a little bit like Striker. Was okay. Was okay. Looked all right. I will say, like, and as you saw in the trailer, like these Jaegers are piloted by young pilots. They're basically cadets, they're trainees. So maybe we're not seeing the best out of them. But it wasn't like they didn't seem as cool as like Striker Eureka and Crimson Typhoon and freaking Cherno Alpha. Like they just didn't have those. Like I like that's my favorite one type thing. Like Guardian Bravo was definitely not. Titan Redeemer, that was the one with the big spiky ball. One that's a 3-person one, by the way, which was quite cool. And the third person can go down and work a turret with these big gun turrets things. That was probably my favorite one out of all of them. That one was cool. That was not quite Cherno Alpha, but like it basically had a big spiky ball and a big gun. That was it, and I liked it. I did like it. I liked how I had a 3-person cockpit. That was cool. And then you had Saber Athena, basically the fastest one. She was the fastest Jaeger. All about blades, all about being quick, light on your feet, stuff like that. That's the orange one. It was okay. She was okay. They were okay. There were a couple others there. November Ajax. The names, man. The names. Basically, you don't see it fight in any way. It was more of a... It plays a role in a couple of scenes. And then Brace of Phoenix. That was one... I think it's in the attack on the Shadow Dome. I think that was where we saw it. But yeah, I mean... Like I said, like I felt like everything was just that step back, and the Jaegers are the same thing for me. I just don't think they had that. I guess I like beefier mechs, I guess. And that's strange because I love Gundam. That's what I mean. By the way, there is a scene where you straight up see a big Gundam statue. I don't know if that's actually in Japan and Tokyo because that's where they were, but that was amazing. I love that there was a scene there. I think that was quite cool. It's not really a spoiler. It's just keep an eye out for it. It's there, if you're a Gundam fan, because that's probably what I'm kind of excited to see in Ready Player One as well. But yeah, so I don't know. It's just I felt like the Jaegers just didn't have that. Just didn't have that feel to them this time. They felt a lot more just like the last ones felt like they were made piece by piece. They were designed a specific way. When the actual, Del Toro and all that made Pacific Rim, they like made them for those certain purposes, and you could see each part being made and all that. Like you could see it. And this one, they all kind of felt like they were just. It didn't feel like it had that heart behind it than the last one did. And I think that's what came out in this one too, is that you didn't have that. It was a passion project from Del Toro because he couldn't really be a part of it this time. It was. I think that's what's lacking. And even the kaiju kind of had that too. The kaiju had that way. The coloring of the kaiju, they all kind of morphed together, and you couldn't really tell them apart in any way. And yeah. It wasn't until the big one at the end shows up that you really connected with it. And that one looked more like the freaking one from the last kaiju you see. Like I think it's the category 5 or 6 that we see at the end of Pacific Rim. The one that gets dragged, that basically they ride through the breach in. That basically looked like that. Like a copy of that one. So that was a little disappointing. But yeah. Performance wise, like out of the actors and all that, like I said with John Boyega, I think he did really, really well. I liked him. They had a lot of fun with this character. Jake's that typical, my dad's a hero. He's got a big shadow. He's, this grand savior, head of the Jaeger program type thing. Fallen hero. And he does everything to prove that he is not his dad. He does everything to prove that he's not his dad. He's definitely not this, strict by the book guy. He's a little bit more like Raleigh in that way. I think he's just a more funnier, more charismatic version of Raleigh, I guess, to be honest with you. Then you had Nate Lambert, Scott Eastwood's character. I don't know. He kind of fell into the background for me a little bit. He was the co-pilot for John, for Jake Pentecost. He filled a role. But he was just kind of like, yeah, okay, you're definitely just like a character I'm gonna forget about. Like I can't even remember his name half the time. I really can't. He's the by the book guy. I think because last time we had, Raleigh and then you had Marco and it was like that sort of relationship that was forming there. You definitely did not have that in this one. There was no sort of that sort of thing. It just didn't click in that way, which was a little sad. Like you didn't have that sort of chemistry between those two. Like they were meant to be like, kind of like brothers in a way. Like they, that he was pilot. They were pilots together for a while. Jake's he came through the cadet program. He was in the program, the Jaeger program, when his father was alive. So that tells you how long he had been in the Jaeger program. But things happened and he wasn't in it for a while. But he was his co-pilot back in the day. So, but you didn't feel that. You didn't feel that at all. But then you got the old school guys, the guys from the original. You had the two doctors. You had Gottlieb and Newt. Burn Gorman, Gottlieb. Basically the same character. He's the same guy. Kind of eccentric, kind of like, very much like figuring it out. He's basically the head scientist for the Jaeger program, place the Pacific Defense Force sort of thing. He's that way. But then Charlie Day, Newt, he went private. He went private for this other company. He's kind of, he's got the glasses on. He's a little weird in this one. And I can't say for, reasons why. They do some interesting things with his character. Things that I'm not so keen on. Like, I think they saw how popular that these two were and they wanted to make them bigger characters. And they did. And Gottlieb was fine. I think that what they did with him was cool and they made him more involved in the story and they gave him good purpose. So I liked that. But Newt, Charlie Day, like they did some things with him. And it's a little weird. And some of it's cool. Some of it's interesting and funny. But it's not what you think. And it wasn't... I can't spoil it because it's a big spoiler in the movie. But yeah. No. Not so keen on what they did with Newt. And then Mako. Mako isn't in it as well. She's like the big Secretary of Defense, basically, for the UN and all that. And yeah, she has a couple of interesting scenes there. They do some stuff with her too that I wasn't so keen on. But that's spoiler stuff. So sorry, I can't really spoil too much, but they are there. And they are their characters, and they are, it was cool to see them. And it was definitely something that this sequel needed. They had to have some of the original cast because it's not far enough away timeline to not have them. Like if you're not gonna have them, you would have to have a prequel. You would have to have a prequel because then you could like have younger versions of them, sort of thing. So I'm really glad that they got those three there. And then it's the cadets. The cadets. Most of them are pretty forgettable. They're just like kind of background sort of characters. One of them I thought was like this Russian girl, and I thought might have been like the Cherno couple's daughter or something, but don't think it was. They never mentioned it if she was or not. Just the way she looked and the way she acted, I thought she was, but I don't think she ended up being that. Like I said before, I think they used these cadets to sort of, appeal to the younger audience member, get them on board with the franchise type thing. It is definitely like a boardroom type choice there. But the main cadet, the girl that you see in the trailers and stuff, Amara Namani, or played by Kaylee Spaney. I did like her. I think she was quite interesting. She was cool. She played off John really well. Played off Jake. Both characters kind of played off well. They had this brother sister type relationship sort of thing, like a little, Jake kind of takes her under his wing a little bit, and he sees himself in her a little bit. Sees why she wants to do so. She wants to do well, but she's not quite like the other cadets and stuff. She's super bright. She was cool. She didn't bug me in any way. I think she's definitely like out of the new characters. She was probably second. Like she beats Nate Lambert for me. She beats Scott Eastwood's character for me. She beats all of the cadets by far. She was alright. I had no problems with her. But yeah, she was okay. Like that's the big thing. Like these characters, there was no one there that like you were my favorite. Like you were like you stood out above the rest. Like you expect John Boyega to do it. You expect them, but there was no hidden gems other than the ones that the old guys, the ones from the first one, like that we knew were gonna be good. That we knew like the two scientists, Gottlieb and Newt. We knew they were gonna be good. And we're looking for Mako. The others, you just didn't get it that way. A quick side note, by the way. GLaDOS from Portal. For those that don't know, that's an AI voice from a game called Portal. She is in it again. She is there. The voice actress for her. She's the AI in the Gypsy Avenger. So I was happy to see that. I was happy to hear that. It wasn't something I was thinking about when I was like going through like, okay, what do I want to see? What do I don't want to see? Sort of thing. It was a nice little touch. Like when I heard it, I was like, that's a nice touch there, because that was like something that Del Toro was really keen on having in the first one. She's like, I don't know how he heard, like I don't know if he played Portal or something, but like I want that voice as my AI for these Jaegers sort of thing. I was happy to hear it. I mean, just a quick wrap up here as we're going to move into the spoilers section soon. It's just that step back. There's that step back, and that's always going to be things with the sequels. It's very hard to get a good sequel, to recapture that magic and expand upon it. I think you can just see that Pacific Rim was a passion project for Del Toro. It was you could see it, you could feel it. The detail was there. This one, not so much. The The lack of like inspiring characters, like, to really like, you gravitate towards. The Jaegers weren't so much. The kaiju weren't so much. The story wasn't so much. I don't know. I don't know. It was just, I liked it. I liked my time with it. I think it was, I wanted it to be made, and I'm glad that it's made. And, you know, they are setting up for sequels. I will say that they are setting up for sequels in the end. By the sounds of it, they're going to go a very interesting way, which may or may not be good. Just, I can't spoil it because it's a scene at the end there. There is no end of, like, right at the end of the credits scene, but there is one, like, just after, like, they show like a title screen, and then it's title shot, then they do a quick like teaser scene. Like, I want more to be made because I love this genre. I love this genre, and anything with a mech in it, like, I'm all over that shit, So I'm glad it was made. It just wasn't on the level of the first one. It wasn't on the level, but it was not like this Transformer clone that I was scared it was going to turn into. It didn't turn out to be that, which I'm super glad about. Super glad about. But I am still concerned that it could go that way. I think as long as they're careful about that, it'll be alright. It'll be alright. So I would say, if you are interested in this type of movie, if you're interested in mechs, you're interested in Pacific Rim, like you're a fan of the first one, I would say go and see it. I would say go and see it. You probably would if you like. These movies are definitely, they did try and make it more wide, spread audience. Like, they tried to get a little more mainstream, I think. But definitely is like a very sort of niche audience in a way. You gotta like this sort of like giant robots fighting monsters type thing. You gotta be into that sort of stuff. Otherwise, you're just gonna be sitting there going, man, this is stupid. Man, this is stupid. Like, you'll just constantly be doing that. So I would say, if you are into this stuff, like, watch trailers, watch things, make sure this is something that you want to see, then go and see it. I think it's worthy of going to see it in that way. Whenever you want to. Like, I don't think it's like a go out and watch it right now. Like, I don't think it's quite that. But if you are into this type of genre, this type of stuff, mix and all that, yeah, I would say go and see it. But on a more general note, I think it's like, if you want to be entertained for, like, what was it, just under 2 hours or so, it's probably worthy of going to watch it. It's probably worthy to go and watch it. But yeah. Alright, guys, we're going to move into the spoiler section now. So the little Kiwi is going to pop up right here and say that we're hitting into spoilers. Big thanks to you guys watching. I very much appreciate it. We are a smaller channel. We're just trying to get going, trying to get to that new level on YouTube. Hoping to hit 1,000 soon. That would be really nice. So that is a goal. Preferably by the end of the first half of the year. That was my goal for this year, is to hit 1,000. So would appreciate it if you subscribe, hit like, dislike, comment, like all the rest of it. You know how to use YouTube. It's all there. But would appreciate it very much. Thank you for everyone who's watching. But we are heading into spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, probably best to turn it off now, okay? I don't want to ruin the movie for you with spoilers and stuff, so. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it, but spoilers are incoming. You've been warned. You've been warned. Alright? Okay, spoiler section. Last warning. Heading to the spoilers right now. So, Newt. I think that's where we got to start, because that's where it all comes off. For me, like, that's where the movie took a weird turn. Now, I don't mind the scene with him, like, going home to Alice, who he tries to make out like his girlfriend, and he basically sits there in the bedroom and drifts with a kaiju mine. That's like the half damaged kaiju mine that he tried to drift with in the first one, I think. That's basically what it is. I didn't mind that. That was like very Newt thing. Like that was like, okay, he's just a little bit of a weirdo and he's gone a bit insane. It may it might have problems later on, but I don't think it's gonna go as where it did, which was he is basically the bad guy. He's the bad guy. He turns the drones, this new drone program that this private company's making, basically drone Jaegers that would go out and can be piloted by a couple of pilots, like just a handful of pilots, all can remote pilot them, and you only need one because like the computer inside them can handle the other side type thing. Basically uses those, fuses kaiju material into them, kaiju brains and stuff, genetically modifies them somehow without anyone knowing. Don't know how that would work, but merge them into these drones, which the CEO of the company, she is the CEO of the company, Xiao, she is like uber focused, uber like this is my big life achievement. How she would not notice this, I don't know. But it happens. He sets about basically using them to destroy the Jaegers around the world, because they're all around the world now. They all got full shadow domes. And open up breaches. Because he's been taken over by a precursor. That's the alien race that we saw in the Pacific Rim. That's what they're calling them now. And apparently, the big reason why they're bringing these kaiju into our world is that no, they're not destroying our cities. They're trying to get to Mount Fuji. That's what's happening. Yeah, because Mount Fuji, active volcano, and apparently kaiju blood, which is like the whole thing that the whole blue thing. The I can't remember what they called it, but it was like it always end up being like this environmental hazard thing. Apparently that reacts really badly with certain minerals that we have on Earth, and if a kaiju fell into the volcano, and it would set off the entire ring of fire. That's the whole reason why they sent kaiju. Now, I'm just thinking, right? Where the breach was. I'm pretty sure some kaiju went south. And also, there was a kaiju in the very first part of Pacific Rim where it was literally heading towards, like, what, Alaska or something? Wasn't that a thing? So, is it Mount Fuji the other way? like I'm thinking, like, I'm pretty sure all the kaiju weren't heading for Japan. And I'm pretty sure all of them weren't heading for Tokyo. Huh. Like, Sydney's really far away. Sydney is really far away from Mount Fuji. I'm just saying. Like, it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, are we overthinking this shit a little bit? Are we overthinking this a little bit? Like, it made, like, this incident thing. Like, I don't call it an incident. It was definitely not a battle or a war. It's literally like this kaiju incident, which, like, 3 kaiju show up. It was... it was, like... Is that really what the reason you're going to go for? Because apparently, like, that would, wipe out humanity because the big ash clouds and stuff, and then that would terraform the planet perfectly for the precursors. That's the whole thing. And they're doing all this through Newt, by the way. Not multiple people. They haven't taken over multiple people. Like, he didn't, like, have this group of people helping him. It was just Newt. And he's sitting on the rooftop going, yeah, go get him, kaiju, woo! Like, I'm a bad guy. It was just not right. It wasn't right at all. It was like, I'd rather them just freaking go and kill, like, just go off and just destroy cities. That's all you need to do. Why are you making this big, like, oh, if it gets to Mount Fuji. And then, like, the big giant kaiju at the end, how it's made by fusing the three of them together by these little like these little bug things that Newt made. These thousands and thousands of kaiju bug things that no one figured out was in the bottom of freaking Shao Industries. Okay. I was just like, this doesn't make sense, and it doesn't work. And it made this, like, basically invincible freaking kaiju at the end, which no one could hit because the damn armor plating soaks up kinetic energy and then brings it back, so no one could do anything to it. Rips apart the cadets because the cadets can't pilot worth shit, and they all have one move and that's it. And then basically their big thing is, we gotta launch Gypsy up into the air, up into the stratosphere basically, and Jaeger bomb the freaking thing like that. It just, yeah, like it felt like the first one, like it had a simple idea and it went with it, and it was like boom 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 boom. Like, I honestly would rather them, like, the breach reopened. They figured out a way to open the breach, and there's multiple breaches now and all this stuff. Like, I'd rather that happen other than Newt's the bad guy now, and he made all these Jaeger kaiju. Uh-oh. Like, no. It was weird. It just overly silly. Mako's death. I think it was a little silly. Like, that helicopter, like, yo, she's a super important person. Get her the heck out of there. Why are you still flying around? Like, all these missiles, all these things flying around. I'm gonna fly a helicopter around because that's what I want to do. It was, I know why they killed her, right? It gave Jake that push to be, like, to actually give a shit. That was the whole point. That was the whole point, right? But it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like a good. It didn't feel like a good way for her to go out, and it felt like it was just done for Jake. Like, she didn't go out the way like you would like Mako to go out. Like, honestly, I'd rather her being the freaking, marshal for the Jaeger program, but, her being the secretary, like, she's voting on these drones and stuff. It was a little bit like, meh. I don't like it. I don't like her death at all. And then I guess, like, Jake himself, like, how he was in the Jaeger program, did some stupid shit. His father kicked him out, and then a year later, his father died. And then him just being, like, in the reclamation zone, stealing stuff, selling stuff, like, just swapping, trading, and all that. Meeting up with Amara making scrapper and all that. It was an interesting start, and I liked how they showed, like, the aftermath of it all a little bit, like how, there are still places that have not been rebuilt. This is not something that just gets fixed in an instant, right? So, I don't know. It was a good start to it. And I liked how Jake was, and you can understand, like, what, his dad's got a big shadow, and to get out of that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there were too many spoilers, but what spoilers there were quite big, so I didn't want to share them in the main thing. But for me, like, it's just Newt. It's just Newt. It's like, yes, everyone loved him in the start, but he's not. He's not. He's not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. And having him on the rooftop going, yeah, go kaiju, yeah, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like that sort of thing. I was like, that's just it's not right. It's not right. And like how the like one incident thing basically wipes out all the Jaegers. Jaegers all get wiped out around the world, or at least completely damaged. It's like, okay, so we're back to square one again. Like literally what took years of war happened in one incident. Like that's what gets me a little bit on that one. Um and I miss Ron Perlman. I miss Ron Perlman not being in this. That was a little bit unstable. I'm pretty sure they mentioned his character, but that was it. That was it. It was like I was disappointed. But yeah, but yeah. Um, like I said at the start, like it was. I liked it. I had fun with it. It was just that step down from the first one. It just didn't have that passion project, that heart in it. You know, didn't have that heart that the last one did. It was just like we need to get this franchise moving. Here's something. I think John Boyega put the most heart into it, but it just like story writing, the script itself in places, the plot, the way the Jaegers looked, the way the kaiju looked. I just don't think it matches that first one. I just don't think it matches the first one. But yeah. All right, guys, that's it. Like I said before we hit the spoiler section, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Am aiming to hit that 1,000 subs, so please, if you want to, hit that subscribe button. You got the like, comment, dislike. It's all there. You know how to use YouTube. And yeah. All right, I'll catch you next time. Peace. Bye.